welcome. We're back. This is part 3 of Shoalhaven paranormal witness accounts, and today they're all actually spiritual witness accounts, and they're all Terara or Terara if you want to be fancy. Either way, it's Rara. Terara. Okay, so starting with the man on a horse. Okay, so he's been seen around Terara, riding around on his horse. So he's dressed in old timely clothes. Okay, so he wears a hat and a wheel slick jacket, I think they call them. I'm not sure. And yeah, he just casually rides around on his horse, just kind of looking around. And the first time that I heard about this, I heard that he had no head, and that was when I was about 15 years old. But he does have a head. He does have a head. And do some digging, and I found out who he possibly is. So, Bernard Brown, possibly. So he was the Southern Shoalhaven's first constable of police, and he was stationed at Terara in August 1851. And the reason why I think that this is him is just because he kind of keeps an eye on the area, just runs around on his horse, doing his thing. So, Bernard Brown, the man on the horse. There is a second horse apparition in Terara, and this one became like a bit of an urban legend and was completely way off. So I remember hearing as a kid and then as a teenager that there was a girl on her horse that roamed around Terara, especially Terara House, and you know, there was this story about her horse tragically died and she was lost without her horse, so she hung herself in the stables. Incorrect, not true at all, but there is on record the death of a girl and her horse. So 18-year-old Daphane Woods is the girl on a horse, and so many locals have actually seen her on her horse, and she actually rides through the paddocks. Not one particular paddock, she just rides, and you know, she's carefree and all of that, and it's not scary at all, it's kind of beautiful when you see it. So yeah, Daphane Woods, the story of Daphane Woods is actually really tragic. It's one of those things that you just like, far out, really? Like, yeah, what a shit way to die. Wouldn't have seen that coming when you woke up in the morning. So on the 10th of March in 1942, and the Hymes family actually owned Terara House at this time. Lieutenant King actually attempted to take off in his Kitty Hawk in a field. I believe it was a field that is now owned by Terara House. I'm not sure whether it was actually owned by the Hymes family or not then. I should have probably checked that out, but either way, the Hymes family owned Terara House at the time. So as Lieutenant King was attempting to take off, the wheel of his plane actually hit uneven ground and it caused him to go off course. He actually crashed into a fence that was nearby, and poor Daphne was actually sitting on her horse next to this fence watching the planes take off, and the propeller struck her in the head, almost decapitating her, killed her and her horse instantly. There was also a little boy that was there with her who sustained terrible head injuries, but he somehow survived, luckily. So Daphne, yeah, she's seen riding her horse through Terara paddocks, and yeah, it's actually a really tragic story. Equally as tragic as the fake story about her that I heard years ago. So yeah. Now, moving on to Terara House itself. I love Terara House. It is beautiful. My parents were married there. I've always been really, really fascinated with it. It's just a really beautiful house. Now, I had an experience. It was 5:30 in the morning, and I was really, really obsessed with taking photos of the sunrise and sunset, actually, that time. So I decided that I really wanted to take photos of the sun rising in Terara House, the entry, you know, the fence, the big grand columns and all of that. And yeah, I actually saw a man walking around. So, yeah, I believe that this man could possibly be Hugh McKenzie. So Hugh McKenzie bought the estate in 1886, whilst he also owned Bundanon, the property Bundanon at the same time. So the house was built between 1900 and 1904 out of sandstone and cedar that was actually sourced locally from the area. While it was being built, Hugh and his family lived in the single room ex-chapel that is now attached to the house. So that's actually become part of the house. It's a winter sitting room. I think it might actually have a different name now, but a winter sitting room. And reports from people who have actually been in this room, he actually sits by the window. Yeah, he sits by the window of this room. And probably roams around as well. So he, you know, he loves it there. It's beautiful. Why not? So he's quite tall. He's, I don't know, about 6 foot. So yeah, he's imposing size, not an imposing energy, like feel-wise. So, you know, he's quite welcoming. So yeah, Terara House is open to the public at times. So, you know, that's actually somewhere that people can go and explore. Yeah, so I thought I'd put that one in because it is somewhere that people could actually go suss out respectfully. Like, do it respectfully, don't be an ass. Yeah. So, I'll just leave it at that and I'll be back to do a different area next week. Yeah, that's it. Terara. Rah rah.